If you, Son of God, the tempter having approached said to him, If you, the Son of God, command that these stones become bread. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 4, verse 1 to 11. The tempter, it is the main spirit of evil and the enemy of God. Approach. It is a way to get closer to someone or talk to someone. Son of God. It is being created in the image of God or reborn spiritually. Order the stones. Order something that does not understand. The stones. Permanence and firmness of the law on stone tablets. The breads, staple foods of the ancient Israelites. Turn stones into bread. It's following the shortcut path to seek an answer. On the second line of the 4th chapter of the book Matthew, it is written that after having fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. It was not Jesus who gave the plan to go to the desert to be tested, but it was a command given by God through his Spirit, as the first line of the 4th chapter of the book of Matthew says. And Jesus was taken by the Spirit in the desert to be tempted by the enemy. You remember well that this was preceded by the baptisms of water and the baptism of the Spirit. And the heavens opened. God told the people that Jesus is his Son. Read Matthew chapter 3, verse 17. It is written, This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. This process of being born again is what makes a person a new creation and a child of God. The next step is to be sent into the wilderness to be tested by the enemy, so that the so-called child of God will be empowered. The power to overcome the fiery temptation of the enemy. This is why Jesus received the voice, because the Spirit of God must be obeyed. Jesus didn't care about the word God spoke to him. A child of God always listens to the Spirit of God. Are you a child of God who listens to the voice of the Spirit of God? When you hear a voice, do you obey it? Jesus went to the desert on the road with knowledge and a willing heart, and in the desert there was no food or water, but there were snakes and scorpions. The enemy did not come in the first days, but left 40 days and 40 nights to control Jesus after his fast. This is why Jesus fasts. No matter how many times you go, if you go the same number of days without food, you will eventually get hungry, and the temptation God pushes you into will be near you and help you to get out of it. What do you do when you are hungry? Are you hungry and waiting for God to help you? Or you find a way when the things you hoped for have disappeared? The people you hoped for have left you. The job you hoped for has stopped. The money you hoped for has disappeared. This is the place where the enemy will come and ask yourself if you a child of God. Tell these stones to turn into bread and eat it so as not die of hunger. If you are a child of God, when did you become a child of God? Is this always or only in good times? Jesus did not care about the temptation that was hard for him. He refused to listen to the voice of the deceiver, but he affirmed God and testified that he is the true Son of God. Do you remember the story of Job, how the enemy denied that he was righteous, and as a result he lost all his wealth? All his children died, and his body became leprous. Do you remember the story of Joseph, tempted by Potiphar's wife, which resulted in his imprisonment? Do you remember the story of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Daniel in the lion's den, and his three friends in fiery furnace. All the tests were very painful, but after the test, the angels of God came to serve them. In the fourth line of the fourth chapter of the book of Matthew, it is written, He answered and said to him, It is written, Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. Living on bread is a person's life, which is based on food. What a person does is what people do for their stomach. Whatever they do is for profit, and that profit is also for to put in the stomach of a small child until adults, rich and poor. Depend their whole lives on eating and drinking. This is why some betray to avoid famine. Remember the first letter of Corinthians chapter 6 verse 13. It is written, Meats for the belly and the belly for the meats, but God shall destroy both it and them. The line continues. This is the main reason why Jesus responded to the enemy with this word. Remember that the weapon Jesus used was the word, and the enemy also used the same word, which means that he also knows the word, and it is requires you to know the complete word to defeat the enemy. The word sent Jesus into the desert, and this word was with Jesus to such an extent that Jesus is the word of God. With the word of God, you overcome all trials, whatever their magnitude. The enemy tries Jesus 3 times, and Jesus continued to testify about God even where the enemy asked him to kneel and worship him in order to give him wealth and the kingdom. Jesus continued to fail him. It is clear that the enemy has many things to deceive people, as if he has something to show people, and he must overcome people's emotions. Read Matthew chapter 4 verse 9. It is written, And said unto him, All these things will I give you if you will fall down and worship me. If you're a child of God, you should not bow down to the enemy, to listen to him, to do what they ask you to be able to obtain riches or kingdoms of the world, etc. The enemy attracts people with valuable things and masks people with these things. After Jesus had overcome all the temptations of the enemy, he had proven that he was the Son of God, who alone made the enemy overcome and live. Read again in Matthew chapter 4, verse 11. It is written, "Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him." The enemy will not leave your life, your family, your offspring, and your future. If you are unable to overcome your trials, and remember that God allowed his child to be tested. Remember the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 45, verse 7. It is written, "I form the light and create darkness. I make a peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things." Today, they are children of God who have fallen in the trap of the enemy, and who turn stones into bread, day and night, so that their business does not go bankrupt, and they can obtain a well-paid job and a promotion to be able to build houses and buy what they want and go to Europe, America, Canada, and elsewhere. Read the book of Job, chapter 7, verse 1. It is written, "Is there not an appointed time to man upon earth? Are not his days also like the days of an hireling? If you're in the world and you do not have a fight with the enemy, know that you have already transformed the stones into bread. Know that you are already prostrated before the enemy. Today, knowing the child of God requires being vigilant and seeing the fruits that the children of God produce. The child of God, the angels of God cannot work for you without overcoming trials. If you're truly a child of God, show it the way Jesus showed it, like Joseph showed it, like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego showed it, and others you know and have seen with your own eyes. Agapao is the love of God. Agapao is the love of sacrifice. Agapao is to love your neighbor as yourself. Be blessed.